Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Terry Baz. A few people have asked me how I'm able to get the satisfying shots of the planets that I have got during this planetary season over the summer and into the fall, although unfortunately the season's just about over. So I wanted to just go through the mechanical steps of this. It's pretty straightforward. I will not go through the processing of the video clips that we gain from this because I just don't think it's necessary. So you can see I have the telescope set up, and by the way, that big black thing at the back of behind the telescope is my 16-inch f5. That's a Dobsonian. I built that myself with the help of from other people. Especially, that's one of the good things about being in a club. They can be a very big help to you. So before we begin, first of all, you got to make sure that before you put the mount on for the 8SE, that you make sure it's level. Otherwise, you'll have problems aligning and finding things. So that's important. And you've got a little bubble here that comes with the 8SE and probably the 6SE as well that you can use to level off your the base of your telescope. So here I have the booklet that comes with the 8SE, and I think that it's important that you study this booklet if you haven't done so, because certainly if you do, it will save a lot of headaches later on. And it's actually not difficult to align the telescope and then use the motor here and so forth to find the objects that you want to find. Of course, with planets, they're pretty bright, so you don't have a big problem. The finder scope is behind the telescope. I'm not going to move it around to show you, but they come, it's part of what the setup of the telescope is. So, first thing, we have a right angle finder. This is an old Celestron right angle finder that I've had for many years. Star diagonal, and it's a good quality one, and you certainly will need to have something like that, and Celestron provides them in the package that you buy. So in goes the star diagonal. I'll just loosen those screws. And there it goes, it's in. The other thing I have to start off, and you just need a low power eyepiece. This is a Celestron. Again, it's an old silver top. I've got both these items from an old C8 that I've had for years. And it's a 26mm, and it's easy. You can see the nice wide piece of glass there, easy to use to initially start things off. So that goes in. I'll tighten that up as well. So that's the first step that one does, basic steps that you know about probably. If anyone that has a telescope will know that. The second thing is this batten-off mask that I have. I got this actually on cloudy nights. They're very inexpensive. They're only a bit of plastic basically. You take off the cover for the telescope and you just put it on like that, and there you have it. And when I first got it, there was some plastic residue around here, and I had to get a filing thing and file it back so it went on easily. And there it is. It goes on the telescope like that. Now, what's very important when first of all, you got to find, do the aligning, and then find the planet. And probably the easiest one is Jupiter, or right now it's Mars because it's high up in the sky. So you find it, and then you center it as best you can without this first of all, and then you focus it. There's your focuser there. So then you focus it, and after that, after you focus it fairly well, you put the mask on. What you need is that you'll get an X like this in the field of view. Mars is bright enough, so you'll get that X. It's got to be even. It can't be like that or like that. It's got to be even. And then there's a vertical line that will go in the middle of it. And when those three things line up symmetrically, perfectly symmetrically, you know you've got a good focus. And that's very important. If you want a satisfying image, you've got to have a very good focus. Now, some people use electronic focuses. That's probably better than what this is, but I find that this is very adequate for what we need to be able to get good focus. The next thing I also have a Celestron one of these, but this is an Aperture 2.5 times Barlow that I use, and it actually fits in well with both visually and also with this camera. I find that magnification works well for the planets. The 2 is fine as well, but it's just a little bit smaller. So I put this in next. It goes in between the eyepiece and the star diagonal. So I put that in like that, tighten them up. There you have it. Now what you'll need to do again, you'll need to make sure you center the planet or the object as in the middle as best you can, and then again you use the Batonov mask. Once you've focused it, you use the Batonov mask to get that exactly symmetrical X that I talked about before. And there you've got, first of all, it's in the middle of the field of view, and secondly, it's accurately focused. So that's what you need to do. After that, I have another instrument that I have here. It's a ZWO. Has it got the name on it here somewhere? Probably not. Atmospheric Dispersion Corrector, ADC, that's right. So I find this is very helpful in improving the contrast and also to some extent the sharpness. You see these 2 dials here. You move those, you adjust them to go into, it goes again, it will go after the Barlow into and between the eyepiece. So it goes in like this. Make sure it goes all the way down, and put it in the inside the Barlow like that. And again, you've got to go through the same process, and it should be okay at this point because it's not going to affect the focus, or very little if it does. And you go through, you get it focused using the focuser, and there will be enough light to be able to use this again and get it lined up as accurately as you can. Once you've done that, of course, you take that off. Now the next thing that we look at, you've got that lined up with the eyepiece. Here's your camera. This particular camera is a ZWO ASI 224, which is a planetary camera, and it's been doing a very good job for me. There are better ones that they've produced in recent months, but this has been doing a very good job for me in terms of getting satisfying images of the planets. So I take out the eyepiece. I'll put it in, I don't have it set up, and I put the camera in. Make sure these are tight and well and balanced. One of the things that's important, see where I position the tube? You've got to make sure you balance that fairly well. You can test that out before you start. So I've taken that out. Here's the cord for the camera, and it'll go in right there. And of course, the other thing I bought a mini computer to use for this. There are certainly better computers that you can use, but they're pretty expensive. This mini computer cost me $200, and it's a powerful one. It's 8 times whatever, and it also has the 3.0 thing for this. So put that in, and then the hardest thing I find is simply getting the image of the planet into the field of view or the screen, because the range is very narrow. So you need to look for that. Now if you can't find it on the screen, which is usually the case when I start, I take the camera out, I put the eyepiece back in, see if I can find it with that at 2.5 times the magnification of what it normally is for this eyepiece. And if I can't do that, I have to take out both the ADC and the Barlow lens together, and I put it right back to just the eyepiece itself. That will come out at a magnification of about 78, given the 2000 millimeter length of the tube, and that's a wide field of view. It's about half a degree, and you're almost certain to find that there's something's wrong if you don't have. Otherwise, look in your finder scope and see if you can, see it there, and then line it up again. And then once you've got that, center it as best you can. Then I put in the Barlow and the ADF again with this, not with the camera. And I take the camera out and I put the eyepiece in, and again, hopefully it's now in the field of view, probably off to the edge somewhere, that I then center as best I can. And once I've done that, then I reattach the camera, re-put the camera in, put it, and it's plugged into the computer, and with a bit of luck, you should have it, in the field of view of the screen of the monitor that you've got with your computer. If you've got a laptop, it's probably better set up than what I have, but I find what I have works very adequately. One thing that I do before I actually put the camera in is I set the settings of the software package that the camera uses, and I set it at about double the gain of what you're supposed to use. What you're supposed to use it for the planets. For Mars, it's about 300, I think. Certainly it is for Jupiter. You can look these things up online to find out what is the best gain for the camera that you're using, so that you can. I double the brightness at least, so that when you then are looking for it on the screen, you've got a bright image there. If you're way out of focus, it'll still be there. You'll still be able to see it, and then you can focus it up more accurately. And so you go through it, and so it's a very bright image. And again, I do the same thing. I take this batten-off mask, and with the camera there and with the gain up, I put that in, and then I go through the same process of getting the symmetrical X on the image on the screen, and that'll help you a lot to make sure you get sharp images, so that you'll be able to get satisfying results. So when you do that, of course, and it's just a simple matter. Once you've got all that set up, you'll go back to your screen or to your computer, and you'll reduce the gain down to 300, and then fiddle around. I just do it visually. Fiddle around with the settings to get what looks to you like, it looks like a pretty good image there. Another thing too, when you're doing this sort of imaging, make sure you have a good night where the viewing is still, because I've tried to do it when this turbulence is bad. It doesn't work. It just, no matter how hard you try, you're not going to get a very sharp image at all. It'll probably come through, but you won't be satisfied with it. Now, one of the beautiful things about this camera and the ADC, of course they're produced by the same manufacturer, that when you touch the side of the screen where the image is on the screen of the computer, an ADC button will come up. And what it does, it actually has a blue ring and a red ring. And if you've got good seeing, they'll be fairly close together. And what you do after that is you take those two adjustment dials there, and you get the circles to sit on top of each other. When you've got that, and you've used that batten-off mask to focus as best you can, you're pretty confident that you're going to have a good image of whatever planet you're going to use. In this case, it's Mars. So having done that, you get those two circles together. All you do is you simply press on the camera image on the screen of the software on the monitor, and start recording. And I usually record for about a minute and a quarter, a minute and a half. Now, because of the camera itself, and because I've got a good computer, you can go up to 130 frames per second, and you get lots of, tons of data as a result of that. Most of the time, I don't know why, but it just goes to 60 rather than 120. That's still plenty of time to work with to get plenty of data. So you'll get between about 3,500 to 4,500 frames from that. Be careful when you're using the software to make sure you don't press the square button there, which is for still frames. There's probably a way to process them too. I've done that a couple of times, and you get this huge big file, and it's all just still frames. And I think I'm used to just using the video itself and then processing later on. So I do that, and that's it. You just you have a video clip. I do 2 or 3 of them, so that, like you do with any photography, when you look at it later on, you can pick out the best one and use that. And I just delete the rest of them once I start processing. And that's basically it. That you've got some pretty good video clips there, and you can start to use the processing software. The processing software and I never do it until the next day, by the way. I'm usually tired. I've got to bring this setup back inside here. I don't like to leave it outside during the overnight. And we use AutoStack and Registack 6. And for some of you, like pip as well. I don't bother with pip. I find I don't really need to use that. AutoStack and Registacks, give great results as a result. And I take my time with it, especially with the Registacks. All those wavelets that are there, I bring out the best of the image. Especially with Mars, you've got the ice cap at the bottom. Use all the wavelets, and eventually the ice caps will come into view. And then just process it. And what I then do is I actually just and everyone has a different way to do it. Some of you use Photoshop, which is probably the best, but there are other very good programs out there. But again, I like to minimize my costs. I simply send an email off to my camera, to my phone, and use the editing on the phone, the iPhone that I have, to sharpen up the image even more, and get the color adjustments right, etc. So that's it, and I hope that you enjoy. I hope this is helpful, first of all, and that you enjoy doing your clips. Some of you, the one person who asked about this lives in Bangladesh, so the issues that we have right now. It's close to freezing outside, and this is a hobby. This is not work. So I'm not going to, unless the weather warms up a bit again, I probably won't try to do any more imaging with this setup. So thank you. I hope that helps, and feel free to ask any questions.